Greetings. I'm Judith Trustone, co-founder of the Global Kindness Revolution, and I've just completed a book called The Global Kindness Revolution: How Together We Can Heal Violence, Racism, and Meanness. Sounds pretty impossible, doesn't it? But it can be done. Let me give you a little background. About 10 years ago, I was teaching creative writing in Pennsylvania prisons. One night, I decided I would give them a homework assignment. I handed out blank thank you notes. And I gave them each a blank note in an envelope, and I said, observe your fellow prisoners and your staff, and if you see someone doing an act of kindness, just write, thank you for your kindness, and give it to them. Now, I had a men's class and a women's class, and of course, the women did it, and the men didn't. I guess they felt it would be kind of silly. So when I came in the following week, the guards were like ecstatic, like, wow, there had been this nanosecond of kindness in these horrible places. And I realized that I was onto something here. So I was discussing it with a group of lifers at Graterford Prison in Pennsylvania. I had been banned from the prison because of my previous book, Selling America's Soul: Torture and Transformation in Our Prisons and Why We Should Care. And it was too much truth for the administration, so they banned me and they banned the book. So I'm in great company with the banned book. But anyway, so we worked with the lifers and the others to create kindness cards. Thank you for your kindness as an antidote to violence. And what happened was extraordinary. They helped design the cards, and we have them available on our website, by the way. And we started giving them out. I would send a card to a prisoner in Oklahoma, and he would make a copy of it and give it out, as many copies as he could make, to everybody in that prison. And we were starting to have a sort of a kindness meditation. And at the time that we were all meditating on kindness, I was leading community kindness circles on the outside with churches, organizations, schools, victims of violence, women in a shelter, wherever I could go. And the idea was that by sitting in a circle with our connected hands, we were connecting to the energetic dimension of us, that we in fact are all vibration in body form. So it turned out that we gave out about 100,000 kindness cards in this country, and about 30,000 in a Spanish version in several South American countries. People want us to make cards in their languages all around the world, but until we get that kind of funding, we're not able to do that. But we're encouraging everyone to do two things: participate in a kindness circle, and also participate in our new project, which is so exciting, and everyone's so excited about it. Kindness at Noon, every day, everywhere. Now, an example of the kindness circles is on International Women's Day on March the 8th. I did a kindness circle for entrepreneurial women at a cafe, a noisy cafe, in fact, where we were in one section and they were selling coffee to people in the other section. So I had about 20 minutes and I guided them into doing a kindness circle. Meanwhile, I had alerted the women at the women's prison in Muncie, Pennsylvania, that we were going to be sending the light of kindness to the women there. So they were in a receptive mode, and we did the kindness circle, and there's a certain point where we directed the light of kindness to the women's prison far away. The women who were doing the kindness circle felt it. They felt the vibration. One woman said, I felt my chair levitating. I couldn't believe it. The women in the prison felt it. They actually felt it. I was a little skeptical, but I still thought, well, it's still a good thing just for them to know somebody was caring about them. So that's an example of the way you can use the kindness circles. And how to create a kindness circle is on YouTube. So you can look at my YouTube channel and see how to do it and get together with some friends and try it. You can still hate your neighbor, but if you sit in a kindness circle with your neighbor, you're probably not going to hate them as much, hopefully. So out of that whole process, which really has been a good 10 years, it has evolved to the point where now we're focusing on a specific thing. Kindness at noon, every day, everywhere. We have never before in our history had this opportunity. By 2020, more people will have smartphones that have indoor plumbing and electricity. So this is the thought. Imagine this. You're doing what you're doing, you're at work or whatever. You pause at noon, and maybe you've set your smartwatch or your smartphone or your smart whatever so that it notifies you that it's noon. We're working on creating a ringtone, and my vision is that in a office with millions of cubicles, ding, 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 one at a time, you'll hear these smartphones dinging, and it'll be the signal to pause. And so I imagine it kind of happening across this room of cubicles. I don't know, I think it'll happen. And people will say, well, what's that? What are you doing? And then they say, oh, I'm going to try that too. So this is kindness at noon. You set your alarm on your computer or whatever, or an alarm clock. Or maybe you live somewhere where they still have church bells that ring at noon. I know that Catholic hospitals all ring the Angelus every day at noon. And when I was growing up, my grandmother's church would ring that every day at noon. It was kind of a reminder to pause and take account. So here's the idea. You pause if you're at work, and you don't have to close your eyes if you don't want to have people saying, what are you doing? Keep your eyes open if you need to, but you're going to take 5 cleansing breaths. And so you're going to take a breath into your jaw, and when you do that, your whole head and neck will relax. Another breath into your armpits, and let your shoulders and your upper back relax. And then a breath into your belly, allowing your belly to sort of be soft. And then a breath into your bottom, so that any stress that's still in there can just kind of drain out. And finally, a breath into your knees. We hold a lot of fear and anger in our knees, which may be why so many people need knee replacements. I don't know. And then as you exhale, just imagine you can release all the stress out your feet. And then what you do is you think a kind thought, whatever that is for you. Or if you're in a position to do a kind action, or you could do it later. In other words, say to yourself, well, I'm going to do this, that, or the other. This is the first of a series, and at the end of the series, we're going to tell you more about what other people are doing and give you some ideas. All of this is in the book. And the book is basically to promote compassion in ourselves in this mean-minded world we live in, and to develop our compassion for the people that are marginalized. Prisoners, prisoners' families, refugees and immigrants, the elderly, the disabled, and another audience that we don't usually think about as being marginalized. But if you think about the jokes, we have a thing on being kindness to mothers-in-law, a much maligned group. And then finally, we address, does technology make us kinder or not? And that's something that I think a lot of people are wondering about these days. So that's how the whole thing began. We now have what we call kindness ambassadors in 12 other countries. And they are waiting for this book. They're waiting to start a global kindness revolution by participating in Kindness at Noon. There are 7,300,000,000 whatever people right now on the planet. If we were to get half of them to participate in Kindness at Noon, what happens is it creates like a cloud of kindness. And as that cloud of kindness expands, as more and more people get involved, the cloud of negativity, the cloud of violence and meanness and racism is weakened and dissolved, hopefully eventually, if enough people get involved. So we only need 3 billion, about 745 million people to make this happen. And since I think it was 60 million people tuned into YouTube to see Kim Kardashian's butt, I think it should be really easy to do this once people know about it. So that's how we began, and we'll be doing more in future sessions of this. We're going to have weekly releases, so each week will be a different dimension. So we're trying to open your hearts to those who've experienced closed hearts in their lives, like refugees and prisoners, and just the meanness of today's culture is just not acceptable in a civilized society. So here's what we're going to do, and just take your pause. Let's assume that your smartphone has given you a ding, and you pause, and the idea is that if we all do it at noon, whatever time that is for each of us, in other words, we're in Eastern time here, so if we stop and we do this at noon, then it moves to the next time zone, and the next, and the next, until within 24 hours, Kindness at Noon has spread around the planet and has this cloud of beautiful energy that wraps Mother Earth every single day in kindness. We've all tried to do good things in our own way, but never have we tried to align our minds at the very same time. And that's where the power is. And later in this series, we're going to show you how to show yourself and others the power of your mind. I first recognized how powerful that was when I walked on fire once. That really convinced me. Because if you convince your mind when you're walking on fire that you're walking on cool moss, that is incredible. So that's what we're striving for all of us to align our minds in kindness. So, you get your little alert, or you remember, or you hear a church bell, or a coworker maybe reminds you. You're going to take 5 breaths as I described earlier. A breath into your jaw, let your jaw relax. A breath into your armpits, letting your shoulders and upper back relax. A breath into your belly, letting your belly be soft. Forget about your abs, just let your belly relax. And another breath into your bottom so that your whole torso is softening and kind of melting into wherever you're sitting. And then finally a breath into your knees, releasing whatever you need to release and let go of out your feet. So you're kind of clearing yourself to align your energy with those of hopefully 3,745,000,000 other people. And then you think your kind thought, and then you do your kind action, or just thinking the thought is enough. And it could be something very simple, like you can look across the room at a coworker that you know is having problems and just send the light of kindness to her. Or simple walking out the door and holding the door for the person behind you. Or acknowledging, like a waiter in a restaurant, thank you. We don't acknowledge each other enough. And when somebody does something that you really appreciate or admire, tell them. Like the women in prison, let that nanosecond of kindness penetrate all of the fear and anxiety and hatred and all the stuff that has the planet in its clutch right now. We can change that, and we can change it by observing kindness at noon, every day, everywhere. Imagine it. Everybody, everywhere. Even people working in the fields could stop for a minute. It doesn't matter your language. All you have to do is think kind thoughts. And over time, this will neutralize and hopefully dissipate the power of the mean mind that seems to be running our lives. We can do it. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in a room with 200 people for just 5 minutes, just doing the 5 breaths, thinking a kind thought, and you can almost see this cloud of kindness forming overhead in just 5 minutes. So treat yourself to kindness for 5 minutes a day. Spread it around. Get some kindness cards through our website, and check out YouTube, and get started on committing yourself to a kindness lifestyle. Thank you, and stay tuned till next time.